Hey everyone, welcome back to PlayStation Megabits. We've got a lot to talk about this month. So much has happened since the last time we were together. We've got a special guest, a bonus-sized episode, and the word on the street is it's a marvelous time to be a PlayStation fan. So without any further delay, it's time to play. Welcome back to PlayStation Megabits. I am your host, Adam Leonard. I am very excited to be back. It's been quite a while since we've done one of these face-to-face, if you know what I mean. And since that time, Sony had their PlayStation Showcase unveiling the new games for the rest of this year, next year, the year after that. Who the hell knows? But I want to talk about Marvel. PlayStation and Marvel specifically, because in that showcase we got the announcement, finally the veil was lifted on Spider-Man 2. We're going to talk about that first. Spider-Man was my 2018 Game of the Year here at Megadads. I love that game. I love that game so much. Miles Morales was also a fantastic follow-up, but this is going to be the sequel proper, where we've got Peter and Miles teaming up to take on Venom as the antagonist. Venom has been teased since the end of the first Spider-Man game, and it looks like we're finally going head-to-head with whatever this iteration of Venom is. I'll try to stay away from the spoilers from the first Spider-Man if you haven't played it, but it's alluded to that this Venom is not the Venom that we are used to. It's not going to be Eddie Brock. It's going to be somebody else. All these things are setting up for a very interesting experience, and the trailer for Spider-Man 2 teases what I sincerely hope is going to be cooperative play in this game, because we see Peter and Miles battling together in this short little teaser trailer. I'm really hoping we're going to get some online co-op play. That would be absolutely incredible. Insomniac has said this is going to be a darker vision for Spider-Man than what we've seen in the previous two games. I don't think we're going to go too deep in the weeds with Spider-Man. I think they're going to leave this franchise open for family play, but it is going to have that more dramatic edge on it, which should be fantastic. But that's not all Insomniac showed us, because the claws came out and we're getting Wolverine exclusive to the PlayStation 5. And that in and of itself is extremely exciting, but the potential that this kind of spells out is what I really want to talk about. There are rumors that PlayStation and Marvel are getting cozy, and there is a massively multiplayer game in development for first-party PlayStation studios, which would be insane. So we've got Spider-Man. We've got Iron Man VR, which was admittedly not my favorite game, but the property has had exclusive tie-ins with PlayStation very recently. We've got Wolverine, and now we've got a multiplayer game. It's clearly not going to be a Avengers game, because Avengers is under the Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix banner. By the way, Spider-Man exclusive content coming to that game. So exciting. It is an extremely exciting time. I am hoping, and this is just, there's absolutely nothing to back this up, but this is my time. This is me and you time, where we can be friends and we can talk about this kind of thing. If we get a PlayStation exclusive X-Men multiplayer game, I will absolutely lose my mind. The fact that Insomniac is working on Wolverine just automatically, instills thoughts of, well, what's next in that X-Men universe? The X-Men are my absolute favorite Marvel characters, my favorite Marvel property. As much as I loved the last 10 years of the MCU, I am holding my breath for when we get the X-Men introduction to that movie universe. And we're getting that in the gaming verse before we get it in the movies. So Insomniac's taking the plate first with the introduction of the Wolverine, and I need it. I need some mutant madness on my PlayStation, and all signs seem to indicate that that is a real possibility. But Marvel's kind of all over the place with video games right now. as I said before, Spider-Man is going to be coming to the Avengers game this year, exclusive to PlayStation platforms. So that's very soon. We have like a 2-month window for that DLC to drop. Crystal Dynamics has confirmed that this is going to be a traditional character expansion for the game. It's going to feature a brand new story content. It's going to have cutscenes. Obviously, Spider-Man himself is a playable character. So this is probably not going to be on the same scale as like Black Panther, but maybe more akin to Hawkeye or Kate Bishop. A few story missions. I'm excited about this. The Black Panther Wakanda expansion was amazing. It was really well done. Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix only seem to be doing a better job delivering these story and character expansions. I would still like to see that a little bit more frequently, but we just got Black Panther, a month, 2 months ago, and now we are getting Spider-Man in the next 2-month window. All sorts of great superhero content for the PlayStation fans. And now to round this episode off, I want to speak about the conversation surrounding PlayStation and their current state in 2021. There's been a lot of conversation about what Sony is or is not doing and how effective their marketing, their PR, and their messaging is to their fans. This is something that I've been thinking a lot about as we approach the end of the year, because Sony has made a lot of really fantastic products for the gamers this year, but that hasn't seemed to clear the hurdle of the conversation of, where Sony is lacking and what they need to do moving forward, despite having fantastic results amongst gamers and these fantastic games that are part of the Game of the Year conversation. I was going to have this conversation between yourself, me and you, but I thought I would bring in somebody to speak to more directly, and I thought there's nobody better than Joseph Moran of the PlayStation podcast Trophy Room to come and talk to me about what he sees as the give and take and the back and forth of the conversation on what PlayStation is doing in 2021. This is a conversation that will end the episode. I hope you enjoy it, and we will see you next month right back here at youtube.com/megadads for a new episode of PlayStation Megabits. Basically, what I want to talk to you about today is I had kind of a thought process going last week when Kena Bridge of Spirits was about to release. And it was a game that had a very short window for reviews. So the embargo was like basically upon release. And so a lot of people were thinking, oh, this is going to be a turd. This is going to be a stinker. And the game drops and it's got great reviews. And in that pocket of a moment, I felt like kind of the narrative about PlayStation shifted for a little bit. I think throughout the year, people have been talking about it's been a lull year for PlayStation. Like they haven't been communicating very well, and we don't know a lot about what the future is, other than anecdotal information about like PSVR, next generation, things like that, and obviously the big franchises that are coming down the road. But once Kena hit and it had good reviews, I started to think about the fact that the PlayStation has had several exclusive Game of the Year contenders. They've had Returnal, they've had obviously Ratchet and Clank. The new one, Deathloop, right now is the buzz. And when you really look at it factually, game by game by game, the picture seems a lot brighter for PlayStation in 2021. And I'm curious what you think as far as where does that social narrative come from, where the conversation seems to be PlayStation is struggling, but when you look at just the facts, when you look at just the blueprint of what are the games this year, it looks like a great year for PlayStation. So where is that disconnect?
It starts with Xbox. And I think when we talk about what Microsoft's done, they're making moves. And it feels like every other week they're announcing something about Game Pass, or something's coming to Game Pass, or they're purchasing a publisher. Microsoft's been very aggressive this generation because they have to be. because they have ground to make up, and because they have this new service to push out. And I think that's one of the things is it's not the fact that PlayStation's been quiet, because yeah, typically in the first year for, this generation, it's usually like, yeah, we'll let the games do the talking. We'll have some, second party deals in place. But usually it is a more of a quiet year. It's the fact that Microsoft is talking so much. And I think that's the main difference between the PlayStation narrative, because when you take a look at it with PlayStation, the first year of the PlayStation 5, you've had a Spider-Man game, you've had Demon Souls, you've had Astrobot, you've had Sackboy Great Adventure, you had Ratchet and Clank, you have Returnal, you have Kena, you have the second party deal with Deathloop. Those are 7-8 games right there just listed off the top of my head. It's not that PlayStation is, honestly, it's not that they're quiet, because in comparison to the PlayStation 4's first year, PlayStation 5's first year is incredible. Again, 7 first-party games or exclusive contract games. That's nothing to scoff at. And a lot of these games are getting your 8s, your 9s, your rare 10s. It feels like the only real dud that PlayStation has had is Destruction All-Stars. And so walking into it, I think you're right. There is this narrative set by, I think, Twitter more than anything, that PlayStation's been quiet, but honestly, they've been showing me what next gen is. Like, I love my Xbox Series X. I've been loving my time with Halo Infinite, but nothing that Xbox has shown me this year screams, oh my God, this is next generation. I don't know if you feel the same.
Yeah, I mean, I've drifted further and further into the PlayStation camp over the last several years, and that's an accumulation of a lot of different factors for me. Like, I find that I more and more know what I want to play, and that's kind of a disconnect with me. And I talk about this all the time with Game Pass, and even with PlayStation Now, which I have, is I'm not the guy who's like looking for, well, what am I going to play? I'm not looking for a huge catalog. I'm looking for the specific things that I want to play. And the PlayStation 4, I have a lot of people get up in arms when I say this, but the PlayStation 4 is my favorite console of all time.
Same.
Because of the sheer amount of AAA blockbuster games that spoke to me. And the experience that I had with that console was like none other that I've ever had. And it just made it a clear choice for me this generation. Was I wasn't even going to get an Xbox. I play Game Pass on PC, and so I'm getting those games for the most part. But like, I'm very dedicated to this PlayStation ecosystem, and so it's, as a PlayStation guy, it's kind of frustrating to hear the conversation get away from Sony so much. And I'm curious what you think. Like, do they need to delve into that social conversation in a more effective way, or do you think they just need to continue on the road that they're on, where the games and the experiences themselves are going to carry the day?
Great question. And I think it's a little bit of column A and column B. When you take a look at that PlayStation showcase that happened a few weeks back in September, it had over 6 million views in the first, I think, let's just give a week total. When you take a look at that Xbox E3 conference, it's about like almost 3 million. So when it comes to, people's ears to the ground, it's towards PlayStation. The narrative on Twitter or social media may not be that way, but in actuality, yeah, PlayStation has garnered that trust, just like with you and me, where PlayStation 4 cemented us into this ecosystem. We're not the only ones. There's a lot of people looking at PlayStation going, yeah, you gave me Ghost of Tsushima. You're giving me that Last of Us, TV movie game. You guys gave me Spider-Man. So what else do you guys have? I think the metrics are the things that social media often ignores, because metrically, PlayStation's doing absolutely just fine. And I feel like, when they announced Wolverine, everybody was like, well, now Xbox needs this. Okay, and now there's reports of coming out of like, yeah, if you're looking for that Marvel Xbox thing, no, it looks like their relationships with Sony.
Mhm.
And so it really does, to me, I think the narrative often gets away from Sony just because of how many things Xbox is doing and how social they are. But even then, they're sometimes too social and sometimes too transparent, and that often hurts them as well. So for me, taking a look at Sony, it really is, okay, you guys are too corporate. You do need to have fun with your fans for a little bit. I love the work that the Insomniac PR team does, communicating with their fans. We need more of that from PlayStation, because that is where the disconnect is coming from. I think letting their games do the talking is great and all, but I feel like I've said this on the trophy room and I'll say it here. PlayStation's done a great job at selling me the PlayStation 5, but they've done a bad job celebrating PlayStation. They need to celebrate it with us. This thing is awesome. So don't just sell me on why it's awesome, but celebrate why it's awesome.
If you were to grade this year in PlayStation, a letter grade, what would you give it?
In terms of like first party games, or just the whole
just in terms of like your experience and your satisfaction with PlayStation in this calendar year?
Yeah, I give them a solid B+ to an A. I think in terms of content, like I reiterated, it's never been better. They gave me 7 to 8, maybe even 9 exclusives this year, that most of them are not just worth the play, but are legitimate great games. They're making some interesting moves with acquisitions, which I really like, purchasing studios that they've have deep connections to, like Housemarque. I like that. Again, celebrate more of that. And when I hear from the developers, it's usually a pretty, not just transparent, but they're excited to talk about the thing I'm excited about. When it comes to the corporate side, though, that's where we have struggles. That's where we have the Horizon Forbidden West confusion, or we're going to, take out the Vita and PS3 stores, and then the reversal on that. It's the upgrade paths that are convoluted and annoying. I'm looking at you, Death Stranding. It's that struggles. It's the system struggles and the corporate struggles that this new PlayStation has that is really the downfall. But right now, in terms of the box, I'm loving it. It's my go-to place to play.
And with everything kind of getting pushed into next year, 2022, God of War, Horizon, I'm assuming Final Fantasy 16 at this point.
Yeah.
VR next gen. My last question to you is, am I going to shit my pants?
Yes. And that's the other thing. Like, dude, 2022 is insane. If God of War comes out, Gran Turismo lands, Horizon comes out, you got Forspoken, you got Final Fantasy 16, knock on wood. You got a lot of games, first and second party, that they're working on, and even some of the more unannounced things. So yeah, it's an exciting time. The future is bright for PlayStation, because when those games come out, and oftentimes they do, they're the things that people are going to. It's like the MCU of video games. One of these games drops and everybody's eye is on it for weeks. And so yeah, if 2022, if everything goes well, we're in for a treat, not just as PlayStation gamers, but gamers all around. I mean, come on, Elden Ring. I took off already for January 21st.
That's dangerous. That's dangerous to take any time off these days for any games, because everything is kind of moving and shifting, and
you gotta have faith.
Gotta have faith. Well, Joseph, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and I'm glad that I could have a conversation with somebody who's as enthusiastic about PlayStation as I am, to kind of lift me back up. Tell people really quick before I let you go where they can find you and everything that you're doing.
Yeah, so you can find me over at Mr. Badbit on Twitter. You can find the Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast, wherever you find your podcast service of choice, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you get your RSS feed services from. You can find the Trophy Room Show there, and on the video version on YouTube at the Trophy Room Show and PS Trophy Room on Twitter. It's one of my favorite things to do each and every week. It's where I sit down each and every Thursday with my best friend Kyle, talking about the latest, the greatest in all things PlayStation. So y'all should check it out. And thank you, Adam, for having me on as well.